Hello, everyone, and welcome to FTB Sports Broadcasting. Our host today, Collie Osborne, is sick, so he won't be attending and joining us. But hopefully, fingers crossed, Carly, get well soon, and we'll see you on next week's show. My name is Errol, and we've got Adam Morrison, who's part of the FTB. And then today, our special guest is Ian Shaw.
Hi.
Now, Ian Shaw is a big Manchester City fan, and with him, we're going to be discussing all things Manchester City today. And he also has a passion for Crystal Palace, which we'll also talk about today. So let's start off with FTB Sports and what we are trying to do and accomplish. We are also showing all different types of sports. So we've got boxing, we've got football, we've also got ourselves F1 and American football and athletics page going at the moment. So if you'd like to join us, please subscribe, follow the link, and get involved with all your comments, and we'll answer as much as we can throughout the show. Each week, we'll have a new guest on the show, and each week, we want everyone's opinion for the show to grow bigger. Okay? So I've introduced myself. What I'll then do is now I'll introduce Ian, and Ian will tell us a little bit more about FTB sponsorship, which is Moss Bros.
Hi, Errol. Thank you for inviting me on. Thanks for inviting me on. As maybe some of you know, Errol and I work together in Moss Bros. I've been there a couple of years. And yeah, be delighted that we work alongside each other. So it's only right that we offer everyone on FTB Sport a deal where the teams will look after you as proper VIPs, give you a 15% off. But I hope when you mention my name, they treat you like a real god. So yeah, you've got a double whammy there. Treated like a god and you get a deal.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is start off with FTB Sports will be giving away 15% off only in store when you purchase from Moss Bros. Use code FTB Sports Ian to any of your local Moss Bros to get 15% off full price items only.
Just mention my name, ask for the manager, and they'll tell you they'll look after you.
Thank you. So without further ado, Ian and Adam, we're going to jump in the mix straight away. And for those of you who cannot see Adam, we've got a technical issue today, so that's why we're running slightly late to than ever. 8 o'clock show every Sunday, but today, unfortunately, apologies, running very late. So we are going to be talking about the European Super League, which we got Manchester United, Liverpool are trying to push at the moment because the original plan of the Big Six was trying to be rich, get rich quick, and leave the poor team to suffer. So we're going to start off with you first, Ian. You're a Man City fan, and as a Man City fan, what I've noticed is Man City is about the people and also giving more back to the community. With this big plan, a couple of queries with it. How do you believe it would work for the Premier League to begin with? How would it work around the Champions League to start off with?
Yeah, I have quite a strong view, possibly as a City fan, and that is that UEFA has always been a bit of an old boys club. The likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, particularly Bayern Munich, Liverpool. The guys who you just got to look at how many years they've won trophies for and how many players they plundered from all the lower leagues and kept it to this boys club. And it's personified by the way that I felt that quite unfairly that Bayern Munich chased Leroy Sané. And I just wanted to talk about that just for a moment. In any other walk of life, in any other football club, Bayern Munich would have been banned for tapping up players, etc. Remember, Chelsea were banned for 2 transfer windows for technically tapping up some junior players. This was a player who was hounded down by every sweaty old ex-Bayern Munich player who could lay their hands on an opinion and their board members, etc. And even powered by a newspaper and all the investigations called Der Spiegel, And actually, they have financial links to some of the directors at Bayern Munich. It was a hatchet job. So all I'd say about particularly, a reinvention of the Champions League, we've got to break the old boys club of Europe in terms of UEFA. If this is the right way to do it, then I agree. I just want to level the playing field. I just want it to be, a 2020 version, not living in the last 2, 3, 4 decades when a handful of European clubs have just dominated with lots of officials in their pocket. But that's just me being outrageous.
So Adam, again, a lot of people last week's show noticed you're a Manchester United fan. As a United fan, do you believe it's the right thing to do by the American owners, or do you just believe the American owners of Manchester United and, say, Liverpool at the moment are just getting greedy by pushing this proposal? So, a question to Ian now. In the current sort of on perspective future we have as, say, football fans and for businesses going around at the moment, do you believe it's do you believe it's the right time now for this proposal to go through?
You've got to say no, in that unless there's a definite end to this virus issue and plane travel becomes the norm again, then how can it be? So I think first of all we've got to nationally or internationally get through this pandemic out the other side, just to see what the new world looks like in terms of plane transport, etc. I can only imagine also over the next 3 or 4 years that every airline that there possibly is will want to recoup money, try to get back on, they will be in billions of debt. And I desperately fear that the whole idea of commuting around Europe by plane will be ferociously expensive, more than we have ever known before, as the airlines try to recoup some of that. How the rank and file supporter will possibly truck around Europe to watch their average game, I can't see it. And it's really interesting following to an extent. City are my passion. I've watched them since I was a kid in the playgrounds in Wythenshawe. But I found myself in London for the last 20 years. And with pals who support Crystal Palace, I have a season ticket at Palace and go and watch them in the Lower Homesdale, almost rekindling the good old days of the Kippax. And I look around, the South London club of Crystal Palace. Can I imagine those supporters trekking out all the way around Europe and affording it? Not really. Can I imagine some of the guys in the boxes around Man City's ground? Probably. But, I doubt those guys were there at Main Road.
So with that then, Ian, so your proposal, would you sit there and say then, for this new format of the European, would you with it or against it then?
Totally against it.
Totally against it.
I'd rather see a ferociously competitive game between Man City and Palace or a Villa or Birmingham or wherever it is. I'd far see that than playing Valencia or Atlanta or St Etienne. I'd much rather see City take on Burnley on a Wednesday night. Much rather. I love the Premier League. I love English football, and I think it's a nice interlude to play in Europe. You wouldn't want that every week. It's
difficult. Yeah. So, okay, Adam, is there anything that we did sort of you want to ask Ian to cover it, or?
not on this topic. I've got a few things to ask him later on down the line.
Okay, so once again, guys, if you use FTB Sports, Ian, you can get yourself 15% off full price product in Moss Bros. Any of your local Moss Bros. Just go in, give that code to the manager, and they'll give you 15% off. Also, they do a tailor-made service where also you can get yourself 15% off, get your suit personalized. Thank you. On to now.
Just picture yourself in a suit and you open the lining, you've got your football club written in. I've got Man City Till I Die a couple of times in my suits and different players. It's quite a novelty. You can look like a serious businessman on the outside, but you've got something outrageous written on the inside.
In my one, I won't tell everyone what I've got inside mine.
One day we'll do some licensing one day, and you'll be able to have your whole club. Imagine you have your whole club colours inside. So you've got to go to serious meetings or an interview or whatever it may be, but inside,
Yeah. Adam, you wouldn't want that in your suit, would you? No. At the moment?
No, definitely not.
So, guys, what we're going to do is we're going to go through a lot of questions with Ian and Adam throughout the program, and then what we'll do is, as we're going through it, we'll come up with different challenges through the program. But first of all, we're going to start talking about the reaction, which is going to be the football scores, which Adam's going to give me the football scores because technical glitches, and then we can talk about the first one, which was the Friday night football, which was Leeds versus Villa. Okay, so I've got that one, but it's the rest of them I need a bit of help with going through. So, Bamford, hat-trick. Villa, unbeaten record gone. Ian, did you see the game? Or did you see some of the goals?
I read about it, and interesting thoughts. I lived in Yorkshire in my very early 20s, so I used to go to watch. I used to go to Ellen Road in the bad old days of Ellen Road when there was always a bus on fire and kids fighting in the street and bricks being lobbed over the stadium. So I can't say I've ever had a fondness for Leeds. But what I thought kind of interesting was that Leeds over the last 4 or 5 seasons have always had an incredibly good start to the season, and they've petered away at the end of the season. They feel that you pronounce the magic, is it Belsia? Really whips them hard, and they work ferociously hard. But the last few seasons, they have run out of energy and legs as those players have got tired towards it. Patrick Bamford's an interesting guy. I mean, he was on loan at a whole variety of clubs and did nothing, and there was lots and lots and lots of question marks. One of the most interesting bits is the kind of conflict of culture between him and other players. He's an ex-public school lad who got terrific academic qualifications, and was even I think offered a scholarship to Harvard, Patrick Bamford. And there is a little bit of alienation between him and some of the other players for these cultural reasons and digs and nasty things said. And there was lots of questions about whether a guy from his background from public school could actually make it in professional football. So it's always good for a variety of people from every walk of life to show that you don't just have to come from poverty to be a great footballer. It's the great leveler. So bring him on. And it was a bit flipping Cantona-esque, some of his goals that I saw when he played in that hat trick.
Yeah, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Adam, rivalry aside, where do you actually see Leeds United finishing this season?
Yeah, there's a bit of a rivalry there between my club and Leeds, but I've always been such a big fan. They were too they're too big of a club though to be in the Championship, and I can't believe it's taken 16 years to get back into the Premier League. But realistically, this season, I see Leeds getting top 10 finish at least.
Yeah. And as a manager, what do you think of Bielsa as a manager?
He's great. He's got the respect of everyone. All the top managers in Wales love him. All the players seem to love him. I mean, I haven't really heard much bad press about him other than the Spygate incident. I haven't heard much much press about him. So at the moment, I'm quite impressed with what he's doing, especially with League. Taking from the Championship, and he's competing against the top teams in the Premier League. It can only get better for them. So,
if I'm right with Leeds as well, Ian, did they spend quite a lot of money? They didn't, did they? Really? They did recruit well, but not a lot of money.
I think they played a lot. They paid quite a lot for the Spanish lad up front, didn't they? Probably, was it 25 million? But yeah, no, I hope they do well. The only feeling you also have is, are they the Sheffield United of this season? They play in that, and it's interesting watching Palace play in this incredibly regimented way. Roy is the ultimate, I don't know what you call him, Sergeant Major structure organisation, and Belsier plays a lot about that really tight formation, really incredibly well drilled players. They remind me quite a lot in terms of their style of the disciplines of Palace.
Okay, so Ian, where do you see Palace finishing? Where do you see Leeds finishing this season?
Yeah, I think they'll do a Sheffield United. I think they'll finish somewhere 8th and 12th.
Okay, so
somewhere around there, I think.
Onto your beloved Man City yesterday, early lunchtime kickoff. What's going wrong at Man City at the moment?
Inconsistency. I think, what am I going to say? Let me take it back a little bit. I quite enjoy watching the interviews with Noel Gallagher, and there was a couple of seasons ago after an FA Cup final, and they said he was being interviewed, and there was all these young kids on the pitch, and they said, "Oh, Noel, Noel, do you think you'll get used to all this?" And he said, "Guys of my generation, which is kind of like me, will never get used to it. Those kids, they will also always get used to it." So what I'd probably say about City is just, I think that was the first time that it was an unchanged team that I can ever remember from midweek. So that's the first thing. I think all the inconsistency with injuries, we should have invested in a forward. I think what Mourinho's done at Spurs, buying that extra forward will pay dividends behind two class ones as well. You saw Jota. If you wanted to know the difference between Liverpool and City this weekend, was Liverpool went out and bought Jota to support when, if the strikers are injured or off form, to give them another option. And City don't have that option up front. So I think they struggle with that and keeping the same 11. I would never want to change Guardiola. Yeah, I'll be a critic. He picks the wrong 11 sometimes, the wrong formation. He messes around with the team. He can be really one-dimensional when you've got a team that packs behind the ball, like exactly as West Ham did, and struggle to break them down. But we've just got to believe and try to get some consistency. That team turning up week in, week out. Really bad luck with injuries. And I think the other bit I'd say is that there was a very short gap really between City finishing in Europe and starting the new season. And you heard De Bruyne, really talk about the impact physically on a player when there's been absolutely no gaps whatsoever. And I think the season will be interesting, where it's the first consolidated season that I can remember where each of the clubs that are in Europe have a midweek game between now and well into January. So when you get very good, strong teams, whether you're a Wolves or West Ham or Everton, etc., who don't have that, unless Leicester in UEFA. But when they're playing just at the weekend, and you have all those other clubs in Europe playing with the midweek games as well, that will be a challenge. So yeah, I think once we get the players all fit and Premier League fit, I think City will be better. But it's still early days. They've played 5 games versus 6. You add the 3 points onto them, and they're suddenly in the top 4 or 5.
Yeah, very true. Adam, any questions anyone asking yet, or we still nothing yet as we're running slightly later than usual?
Not so much on the question side, but a few comments coming in. Files coming in. Not a performance in Southampton. Steve Foden's come in with bouncing second and first days are outrageous, which I think we can all agree on. Other than that, we haven't had a lot. Charles has come in. Just he enjoyed the show last week. Just got a question for Ian. Do you think your title contenders this season, with the way the season started and the inconsistent results from every team in the top six?
I can't really hear you, Adam. Errol, did you hear?
Yeah, it's. If I'm right to say, he's asking a question about being title contender. Like, is that Adam?
Yeah, if the question's title contender, I'm not sure. I'm really not certain, because I think there's the Premier League's got stronger. The likes of Everton, West Ham, Wolves have got much stronger. Spurs are going to be a much stronger team. Liverpool are doing what Liverpool do, and this weekend was a great example of that. A game that they could have easily drawn, and they get the differential goal, and that's what City aren't doing, and United. And I think that's what often sets aside champions versus contenders, which is actually, I use the age-old phrase, grinding out a result. But let's give credit to Liverpool, having that extra level of determination, or options off the bench, or nous of the manager to squeeze that winning goal out. And when you look at the clubs in behind that, they have that. They have that ability to just squeeze that extra goal out in games that they probably don't deserve 3 points from. And they did that all the way through last season. But I'm not going to say it's luck or any decisions. They actually either had the skill or determination to sneak that goal one more than the opponents do. And it will be settled by, if City don't win the league, it will be because they draw too many games. You've just got to put the points on the board. And the other critical bit I'd say is they desperately need to sign a striker. When you look at the investment over the last few years, the investment's been all over the park, and yes, people can say, oh, they've spent millions and millions. I think they're actually, in the last 5 transfer windows, they are actually the 8th lowest spending Premier League team. And since Gabriel Jesus, who was only less than 20 million quid, they haven't signed a forward. And if they don't do that in the January transfer window, I would be pleased with a top 4 finish. They're not going to win that.
With Man City though, is it since Guardiola's been there, he spent nearly 500 million on centre backs, or 400 something million on centre backs? So for me, the football he plays is this attacking style of football. What I find with Guardiola is it's almost Jurgen Klopp seems like always have a plan B. Guardiola always have just a plan A. Don't get me wrong, it's phenomenal plan A, not a plan B though.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, I agree with that. As I said earlier, he is one-dimensional, and when teams see how to play City by packing the defence, putting 11 men behind the ball, their City struggle to break it down with that tippy-tappy football. And it's interesting, particularly when I look at both Liverpool and Spurs, Mourinho, they will always have a different option. I thought Cavani was an interesting purchase for United because he gives them, and I was actually keen that City bought a player like him. They give him he's a completely different player than their other forwards. Jota is a very different player than the Liverpool forwards. It's springing a surprise, it's breaking the stalemate, it's having a plan B. I agree with that. In terms of the defenders, when you reflect on, I was reading an article the other day that talks about, was Pep Guardiola as good as everyone thinks at Barcelona, or did he ride on the back of, he had a surge of players who all came through together, a bit like Alex Ferguson got in that class of 92 or whatever. And can anyone even remember further back than Piqué and Puyol at Barcelona? It's like they were in defence for a decade. And City have always struggled to get that. And
breaking news, guys, sorry to interrupt. Leicester just beat Arsenal, last minute goal, 1-0 Vardy.
What a surprise.
Sorry, Ian, go on.
No. I'm glad to an extent that Vardy scored or whatever, because it just shows also what a 30-odd-year-old striker can do with pace and determination. So, and it's also, gosh, when I look at the back, yeah, I think some questionable signings City have made at the back. And I'm not necessarily going to call Mendy a questionable signing. Sometimes knee injuries can trash a player, particularly when they're a pretty heavy, muscular player. And just a thought, I know City are linked with Traore from Wolves on a very regular basis, and he is an incredibly muscular, athletic player. And those players, I don't know whether it's about body mass in terms of muscles and legs, etc. But you watch Mendy of a similar sort of build, and I don't know whether it's the impact on the knee, but ever since he's had that knee injury, he's never been the same sort of player. The confidence, the crossing, he's not the same player that City bought as a young player. When you watched him when City bought him, I thought, yeah, he was the real deal. He was ferocious, and his left foot was just a lethal weapon. But post the knee injury, he's kind of average.
So, Adam, where would you pick and see City finishing this season? Yeah, Adam, can you hear me? Yeah. Where do you see City finishing in the league? Adam? We'll come back to Adam in a minute.
Probably going to say lucky to make the top four, and he's probably right.
Yeah. You there with us, Adam? We're having technical glitches at the moment.
Don't worry.
Yeah. Hello, Adam. He's not with us.
You, Errol, where do you think City will finish?
Well, for me, I think City, they will finish in the top. They will finish in the top four. They have to finish in the top four. Because again, the threat of them, well, they were going to get banned from Europe originally, meaning sort of they wanted to win the Champions League desperately, but it's something for some reason or another, Pep can't do it with them. You can't get over the line with them for Champions League. But I can see them finishing in top four though. Cannot write them off.
Yeah, I probably agree with you. I would take a top four finish this season. But think about what I say is critical. We find the solution in terms of the forwards. There's no point having De Bruyne, the greatest assist maker there, if they haven't got forwards. I think the max goals any player has scored for City so far this season is 2 from Raheem Sterling.
Yeah.
That's it.
I don't know if Adam's back. The next game we will go into, again, it's a club that's close to your heart as well. And it is the Crystal Palace beating Fulham 2-1. For me, that was a very, very, very lucky game for Crystal Palace. I think that's probably one of the best games I've seen Fulham played so far this season. But Zaha, what a player he's coming this season. Leaps and bounds, even better than last season. Also, do you think Zaha should be looking in January to leave Crystal Palace to go to a European club?
I thought he would have left, actually, and to an extent, having Zaha still at Crystal Palace is like having a £30-40 million signing extra to, I think, what they planned. When they sign Essie, who I think will be a great buy.
He will be
as a replacement. So actually, the fact that they got to keep Zaha, I think, was a bonus. What can I say about Palace? You talked about inconsistency at the back of the City and never knowing who's going to play at centre back. Well, it's the same with Palace. Since I've been watching Palace, and I love it. We stand at the back of the Homestale behind the ultras, and the noise is fantastic. It's like the best aspect of football. And Neil Morris's beer is really good as well. But what can I say about Palace? Yeah, their inconsistency is about their central defenders. Every game are completely different players, and I'm always critical of what I call the lack of mobility of centre backs. Tompkins and Dan, etc. The only time that Palace start to play well when they've got more mobile centre backs. Cahill, what a shame he's coming to the end of his game. He's a class act.
Class act, great player.
And Saka, when he's fit and on his game, again he brings the ball out. That's where Palace are guilty. Where Palace really struggle is bringing the ball out of the back four. Because actually, after that, they've got a hell of a forward line. And it's brilliant to see Andy Townsend on fire. I mean, he is playing out of his skin this season again. He's got a very, very good football brain. And Roy marshals them incredibly. You watch their discipline. There is no more disciplined manager than Roy. Just a fantastic manager. And to be doing that, when I think about, the pressures of my work, etc., and, in my 50s, imagine managing a Premier League club at 72. Unbelievable.
Oldest manager in the Premier League.
So, yeah, Palace will have another sound season. They might break the top 10, and they're very exciting up front. The only player still yet is flatters to deceive is Batshuayi. I don't think he's proved anything anywhere. He's meant to be valued at God knows how much money, but on what basis? He looks
high
like
wages, no one want him.
He runs like the real deal. He swaggers like the real deal. But him and Benteke, I don't know. Jury's out, I'd say.
Yeah. Adam, are we back? Any questions from anyone at all, Adam? I think we've lost Adam. So we'll probably I'll keep asking the question. Anyone want to drop questions down? Please drop your questions down. Remember, we're sponsored by Moss Bros. Go into any local Moss Bros shops. Quote the code FTB Sports Ian. Speak to the manager and get yourself 15% off full price items. We're there.
Curtis
Any
Jones
questions?
at Liverpool bought a suit with us in our Liverpool store this week.
There you go. Everyone's doing it. Did he get his 15%?
And Sacco's bought a load of suits in Wooden Branch occasionally. And one of the nicest pictures of that when Manuel Pellegrini was managing. You'd have thought this is guys who's a multi-millionaire, and he needed a dinner suit for the Players Awards dinner, and he walks in and buys one in Stratford Moss Bros.
Yeah,
that's quite a for the books. No Tom Ford for Manuel Pellegrini. He's happy to buy a dinner suit from Moss Bros. Nearly as far as seeing Novak Djokovic when he won with set against Federer, and instead of buying a dinner suit or sending his man out to Savile Row or whatever, he walks downstairs after winning $1.5 million and rents a dinner suit. He hires a dinner suit from Moss Bros. Rather than buying one.
Oh, you do?
$1.5 million.
Yeah.
Djokovic hires a French connection Moss Bros dinner suit. It's weird.
Adam, sorry. Adam, any questions that we need to read out to us to answer them?
Can you guys hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
So please come in. I guess Arsenal won't party hard tonight. And how do you feel VAR has performed this week, and where do the responsibilities for all the shortfalls fall?
So repeat that question, Adam.
So how do you feel VAR has performed this week?
Oh, okay. How do we think VAR performed this week? Ian, let's start off with you. How do you believe VAR has performed this week?
I think it's not about how VAR has performed. I think it's the interpretation of VAR by the referees. I think number one, I'd say I'm pleased they've got this nonsense of handball sorted out. So that seems to have gone away, where actually there's some intellect being used about handball. But I think they've just got to get their glasses on, some of these officials, and have a proper look. That Maguire rugby tackle was undoubtedly, you didn't need VAR to spot that one. That was just crazy. And when I also watched, to be fair, also, I thought the lad for Everton was desperately unlucky to get sent off today for a red card for what looked like just running into the player. So VAR should stay. Absolutely. It makes for much, much fairer results. But learn to train. It's a bit like us using Zoom, isn't it, Errol? The officials have just got to get their,
We've got a video,
the officials have got to get their head around
Zoom
technology and make it work properly. So it's about humans now, not about VAR. And
okay, Adam,
controversial.
I'm going to ask you
some younger officials who are a little bit more in tune with technology.
There you go with it. Adam, how do you believe VAR has performed this week? Because for me, I've got a lot to say about VAR this week on the interpretation of a lot of stuff. So, Adam, what's your prognosis?
Go for it, Errol. Go for it.
Adam, you there, yeah? Adam. Okay, until Adam come back on. So, let's start off with VAR and the interpretation what I've got this week. So, I looked at the Man United game, the first game, and Maguire, it's a foul. It's a penalty. He does it week in, week out. And for me, that's a penalty. Stonewall penalty. All over the defender. Then, again, I'll come back to the Liverpool game now. When I look at the Liverpool-Sheffield United game, it was touch and go with the penalty for Sheffield United, the first penalty. But the handball is a handball. It's been given. I've watched the Crystal Palace game beginning of the season. It was given against them for that handball. I watched the Newcastle game, first game of the season, where I can't remember who went up to head the ball and it hit Andy Carroll when he weren't even paying attention, and it was a penalty. If they're going to say a handball is handball, the VR got to step in and give it. Adam, I think you're there. I think you probably got a few things for VAR. What is it?
Can you hear me, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a few things. I know Ian was on about the Maguire incident. That's not you don't need VAR to see that's a penalty. And then they go and check the Rashford one like 4 times, even though it was nowhere. It wasn't even close to being a penalty.
Yeah.
It's just so inconsistent on this whole thing. They had the whole situation with handball at the start of the season, and I still don't feel like that's gone away completely. Because I didn't see it, but I heard there was an incident in the Liverpool game yesterday where
handball.
Because I thought if it hit the player's arm, it's a penalty.
Yes.
I know we had one against us first game of the season, Palace at Old Trafford, given a penalty. I think I saw one in the game today where the ball hit his arm, but then they said, oh, it wasn't on purpose, no penalty. So I don't see where
That was the Wolves game, Wolves-Newcastle game today.
Yeah, I think it might have been. But yeah, there's no consistency to VAR at all at the moment. But in Europe, it seems to work well. In the World Cups, it seems to work well. So, yeah, I think it's the officials running it. And yeah, I think we just need to get a bit more, go and look at them in Europe, see how they're doing it, do our homework on it and come back and just play the same rules, and we're all on the same page.
Yeah. But if that's the thing with VAR, it's like the inconsistency with it. So yesterday we seen the Liverpool game, there wasn't a penalty in the game. Then sort of you look at a handball today, no penalty again. Come next week, there might be a penalty in the same situation. It's the consistency.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to have. That's what we're going to have. Yeah, and it's also, if you look at the offsides, no one's even sure when they're looking at a screen and they pull their diagonal line across. I say diagonal because it's never straight. And then we've got to try and judge an offside, and then we have to hope that they stop the video when the ball's actually been played, because I know that hasn't always been that accurate either. So they stopped the video a couple of seconds after the ball's just been played, and then they missed the true line of offside. It's just poor. You could get a couple of kids to sit in there and run this. It's not a difficult job. Not when they've been paid thousands to officiate these games.
Adam, that was my point about the use of technology, that maybe we actually need proper analysts, people who are used to technology, who do that for a living, interpreting what they see, just like you interpret data. A different set of officials. It must be hard after officials have done it one way for 20 years to then be asked to do it a different way. So maybe the officials on the pitch, it's just a different job. And actually the guys looking at VAR are more analytical. They are analysts. They are guys who sit in front of screens and use data analysis or picture analysis for a living. So they are specialists. So you're either a specialist at analysing VAR or you're an on the pitch official. Perhaps retraining the guys who've done it one way for 20 years is not the right way of doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything more about VAR? Because we've probably got another 10 minutes maximum to get through the rest of the league game, and then to wrap it up as well. I think at the moment when it comes to VAR, what I'm going to say on VAR, I just find it's too inconsistent. Far too inconsistent. You don't know the rules really and truly. The rules change every day. Depends on the referee. VAR actual officialing.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Any thought of that, Adam?
No, I'm good.
No. Okay. It's going to take us to our other game, which we talk about VAR, and that's Liverpool 2-1. Now, I've watched a few fans' channel, and I've heard some people say it. I'm not one of them people. I don't think they will win the league, but they're going to be there and thereabouts. And to defend their title, Liverpool will be the favourite to win the league again. They won 2-1 yesterday at home. If I'm right to say, is it they haven't been beaten for like 6-4 game or something like that at Anfield? Phenomenal record. Now, I honestly believe this will be their toughest league win if they win the league this season, but the best. So it will be better than last season. And the reason being for that is because of the whole Virgil van Dijk issue. What do you believe and think with that, Ian?
A couple of things there. I think firstly, they're very, very unlucky to lose Van Dijk. But the guy Fabinho, who fills in that position, I think is a terrific player. And I think that that'll allow a more settled midfield with him playing in that back four. So I wouldn't be that worried if I was a Liverpool fan about him dropping back and partnering with Gomez, with probably the two best fullbacks in the league, either side of them. I wouldn't be that worried about that aspect, and one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I think Liverpool season. Here's one interesting view. We haven't talked about the effect of having no fans in the ground. Older, tight state where the fans have a much bigger, noisy impact on the result. Liverpool will miss that. Anfield is built like a velodrome, cold, and the fan impact is probably far, far greater than in some of those big grounds like Man City or particularly West Ham. Palace will miss their fans, the intimacy of the fans, an equation, almost a correlation with the intimacy of the ground and consistency of those teams at home. I think Liverpool will be far more vulnerable at home without their fans than, say, West Ham or Southampton, Man City, Arsenal in those big, vast grounds that doesn't give you a stronger home support advantage. The one club I take out of that is Tottenham, because that's a bloody brilliantly shaped ground. If anyone's not been to that ground at Tottenham, they've built it with incredible acoustics. So if Tottenham even slightly move forward, the booming noise from that ground is it's like no other ground. But yeah, reflect on that. How much will the lack of hurt Liverpool at home? I think that will hurt Liverpool more than losing Van Dijk.
Adam?
Yep.
So Liverpool 6-4 games unbeaten at home this season. Then you have the whole situation as well with VD as well. So, question: can Liverpool retain the league? One, for you, Adam. Two, do you think the media and the players at the moment at Liverpool are to be blamed for I call it for this whole Van Dijk injury. That Ancelotti have come out now and stated he believed because of what happened, that's why the player got sent off to that Southampton. And also listening to Sky Sports today as well, you had Kieran Dyer also coming out saying he believed it needs to stop now because the media and it's almost like the club are keep going with it rather than it's part and parcel of the game. Players get injured week in, week out.
Yeah, with Liverpool in the title, I think they can retain it. They're obviously one of the favourites. They're
100%.
You know, the squad they have. I know Van Dijk will be a massive loss because you know he come in, he completely changed that whole defence, as well as Alisson. That they're the two key players to come into that. But they might have to slightly change the way they approach games now without him. But if they can get the right formula to work, then yeah, they can easily retain their title. I don't doubt that. But with the old Van Dijk situation, it's like hoodies in the park at the moment, egging people's houses. What's going on? You got people threatening Pickford's family on social media. You got Liverpool fans all online slating Pickford. And I don't know. It just seems a bit childlike at the moment with the way they're going about it.
But one thing, sorry Adam, I'm going to cut you there as well. But one thing we got to also remember, these threats that Pickford's getting as well, we got to always remember it's only a minority of the people doing it as well. So we don't want Liverpool fans to come on and get upset or anything because it's not. I'm not condoning what fans are doing or things like that, but it's just a general topic at the moment because it was on the telly again today. It's only a minute percentage of people being ignorant, being keyboard warriors.
No, of course it is. Of course it is. It's that, you know, that minority, but unfortunately that minority is always out there to be seen. That doesn't go away. So you're always going to see that, and people brand that with that club because it's their fans, you know. But with that whole situation, you know, we support clubs where we've had stuff like this happen. You know, maybe not as serious. Maybe it's more less contact, shall I say, when it's happened to our players, like the Alan Smith one with the recent free kick. You know, that was a horrible.
That was bad. That was horrible.
Yeah, horrible break, but that was just defending a free kick. You know, and you know there wasn't people threatening to kill his family.
But, I just
like
think
say, it's a minority. It's a minority. So you know, if we get, they can get past that.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's like what Ian touched on earlier as well. It's basically social media as well, isn't it? Social media has a big part to play in it. What's your thoughts on this, though, Ian? Like, because obviously you do a lot. Do you know it as well?
I think Pickford is a clumsy clown of a goalkeeper who isn't good enough to be the England goalkeeper. And that situation epitomised someone whose judgment is so poor. There was no intent, and I'm certain when he writes his memoirs, he'll apologise and say, look, I had no intention of doing it. The person I really always want to bring to book on this is Roy Keane. He's an animal. With the hypocrisy of having him on the television in any shape or form, when that's a professional footballer who wrote in his book he intended to finish the career of Haaland at Man City, and this guy is paid by the media to be on television to represent his fellow professionals, who is probably the only one really who went out there and said, you know, I wanted to damage this. Pickford didn't do that. If people should be camped outside somebody's house, it should be outside Roy Keane's house still. not Pickford. He's just a clumsy clown of a goalkeeper. He's a clumsy goalkeeper with bad judgment.
Yeah. Okay, so I think
not an animal like he.
We're having a few technical issues at the moment still. So we'll just wrap up the games then. So it's going to be Man United, Chelsea, 0-0. Boring game.
Terrible.
Maguire should have been not sent off, but a penalty, blatant penalty should have been. Now, question for, I'll come to you in a minute, Ian, but I'll go to Adam. Adam, can you hear me, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so with Maguire, if Paul Pogba was going through the bad form that Maguire's going through now, do you believe the British media, will be more sympathetic with Paul Pogba? And why is it that Maguire almost seemed to get away with everything within the club and also with the British media?
That's a good question, actually. I believe Pogba does get more sympathy, probably because he is a foreign player, even though he is an academy product. He is a foreign player. With Maguire, the expectation on him, because he's English and the £80 million price tag for one, that's always going to bring its own pressure, especially with the press, and especially in the football community. If he comes to Man United and he costs £20 million and all this was happening, it would barely make that page. But he's at 80 million, world's most expensive defender, which, this is no fault of his own, but that's the money they bought him for. This was always going to happen. You saw it with Pogba before Maguire joined, that he used to get slated. He's got his favourite pundit on Sky Sports, Graham Souness, absolutely loves him. You can't say a bad word about him. But yeah, it was like that, and then you get that other record signing. Maguire comes in, the pressure's come off of Pogba, especially with Bruno coming in playing so well. You didn't hear of Pogba for a few months. But yeah, this is always going to happen. When you pay big money like this, you have to be criticised when you don't play well, because that the fans are paying great money to see this, especially at the moment. You've got season ticket holders that are already paid for their season tickets, and they still got to pay £15 a week to watch their teams play on TV.
$14.99.
Yeah. It's embarrassing, really. The club should come to some sort of arrangement for the fans. I've just bought my season ticket as well, and I've got to pay £15 a week to watch my team.
There you go. So that brings me on to Ian now. Greenwood. Foden seems like he's getting from the press whatsoever about what he done for England, but for Man United now, he's absolutely getting slaughtered in the paper, left, right and centre, and apparently say he's late for training, he's got a bad attitude and everything like that. Why do you think the British media has gone for one but not the other?
It's an interesting one. I think the first say is it's not a colour or racial thing. Remember how Beckham was treated after Simeone and got sent off for England and was booed and hissed at every occasion. There's many years of crazy behaviour of England supporters and British press against fellow English players. I don't know what it is that we like to put them up on a pedestal and then shoot them down as hard as we can. The one thing I'd say about Harry Maguire is he should thank his lucky stars there are no fans in the stadium this season, because after his little trip to Greece, he would have booed and hissed at Raheem Sterling seemed popular at Liverpool compared with all the grounds he would have gone to. That would so he can actually thank that actually his misdemeanor was then in front of an empty audience for the season, because he could have been the bogeyman of the season. All the fans like to find someone who's done that for the season. In terms of why Greenwood, it's interesting. Hudson-Odoi at Chelsea got similar treatment when he was kind of late for training or whatever it was. And there are some players when they get their first hint of fame who do get a big for the boots, lack concentration, etc. And I just wonder whether him and Hudson-Odoi are going through that kind of that period of time. It could also be about the people who've got around them outside the game, not advising them properly, not keeping them on the straight and narrow. Perhaps
reminds you of. Sorry to interrupt, Ian. Reminds you of Ravel Morrison.
Just sometimes the influences around a player outside of the game don't bode well, and maybe has got a more disciplined bunch of guys around him to make sure that, okay, so he's really screwed up for England. Perhaps he then doubled his efforts in terms of getting to training on time and being a good lad to repair it. And maybe the advisors around Greenwood weren't quite as savvy. But I think Harry Maguire was a really good defender, but he's clearly lost his concentration. The growth affected him and his reputation.
Do you think, though, it's too early to give him a captaincy at Man United?
Sorry, whom?
Harry Maguire.
I think he's a leader for United. He was natural to pick. Who else would they have picked? If one Mata years old and a more guaranteed first place choice, you'd have picked Juan Mata. Good guy as a captain, but who else would you have picked at United? I can't think of anyone else. And as for Pogba, it's interesting. The Real Madrid fans have got a similar impression about James Rodriguez. James at Real Madrid was always cited as just being a player with lots of talent who only played for himself and not the team. And when you hear criticism of Pogba, it's very similar to Rodriguez at Madrid. Came with a big price tag, doesn't play for the team. Doesn't track back well, and I know why Souness dislikes him for that, because that was the old Liverpool ethic, the Hughes, Thompson, Souness, and all that. Everything was about the team. Everything was about the team, not the individual. It was just Shankly and those guys and Paisley just drum that into them. So then when they see a player that is completely alien to the way they were brought up, it probably wrangles with him more than anyone else.
Yeah, and before we go to our last two questions, last two games, should be honest with you, where do you see Man United finishing this season? Do you think Ole will be there?
In the last, it's all negative at the moment, and United fans want Ole at the moment. But in the last two games, they've shown, or three games, they've shown promise. You got your 4-1 win against Newcastle, 2-1 win against PSG, 0-0 draw to Chelsea. People are looking at this 0-0 draw as if it's the worst thing to happen this season. I think that's pretty good. Considering how we've been playing, it's a nice solid performance. I know it was a bit of a dull game, but we didn't go and concede. Just remember, the week before we shipped 6 goals against Tottenham. That's Tottenham that we used to batter every single year, and it used to be a bit of a joke when we used to go and play them. So, I think it's going to improve, but realistically this season, United are going to finish 6th. In my opinion.
Yeah. What about you, Ian? Where do you see United finishing?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they'll rattle the door of the top 4, but I'm not sure that they're going to get it in. I don't think City a slam dunk for the top 4 at all. I think the Premier League suddenly got a lot better, and don't underestimate that. The impact of those teams, good teams that don't have those midweek games. The Wolves, the West Hams, the Evertons, the Palaces, lying in wait on that Saturday or Sunday after a team returns from Europe, and they will hurt the likes of City and United. And the league champions will be those ones who can weather that storm of coming back from Europe. On a result, when you look at those guys coming back, Chelsea, City didn't get a win. Possibly the sign of champions.
Okay. Adam, have we got any questions at all? And then what we'll do is just wrap up the last two games.
Yeah. What qualifies Maguire to be Man United captain?
Ian.
Can't think of anyone else to do the job. Just look around the team. Who on earth would you pick?
Bruno Fernandes?
Is his English even good enough yet?
Yeah, that's the obvious one, Bruno.
Yeah.
He had a dreadful game today. I'm not certain. You would not put your captain's armband on a player who hasn't proved it quite yet.
But he captained them. He captained you.
Maybe. Yeah. But
yeah. Adam,
I wouldn't put the captain's armband on a relatively new player.
Yeah.
A relatively new player who doesn't necessarily know the club, all the players intimately, etc. It's not rah on the field. A captain these days has to be a good tactician, has to be on the same wavelength as a manager. Not yet. You may be, but yeah.
Yeah. Any more, Adam?
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Werner? Big money buy, not producing the goods as of yet.
Pardon? Go on.
Timo Werner, what's your thoughts on him? He was a big money buy, but he's not producing just yet.
Gotta let him settle in first. He will be a great player for Chelsea. He's a great signing for Chelsea.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah,
he looks like the real deal. I've been surprised. I thought he would hit the deck running.
He will be good.
I thought Wiener in particular. I thought he would have hit the deck running.
Yeah, he'll come good. More question, Adam, before we go on to the last two games?
No, that's pretty much it from my end on the question.
Okay. Adam, sorry, did we get the goal up for the goal of the 5 goals, or we didn't get a chance to because of technical issues?
No, technical issues, mate. Sorry, that's
that's fine. That's fine. So we'll run down now. So Southampton versus Everton today. 2-0 Southampton. Again, Ancelotti wasn't happy with the sense. He believed it was payback to do with the Van Dijk original challenge week. What's your thoughts on that?
I think Ian. First, Southampton again epitomised West Ham, etc. Another really strong Premier League team without the Euro games who can cause damage on the weekend afterwards. That's the first thing I'd say. Do not underestimate the likes of Southampton or Leeds, Wolves, all those teams on the top 6. I think you've got a good manager there at Southampton, and I like Potter at Brighton. I think he's a good disciplined manager, and I think Southampton are, they're disciplined. I saw a little bit of the game, and it was a very soft sending off. It wasn't a sending off. Whether that was some kind of balancing the books of the previous weekend. I don't go with conspiracy theories. I don't think so.
Adam, what's your thoughts on that game as well? 2-0 Southampton, Everton. A lot of people back them to be one of the favourites to win the league.
Yeah, it's a bit far to say they're favourites to win the league when they're 5 or 6 games into the season. They had a great start, and Scotty's obviously got them playing well. I backed them to win today, but Southampton do what they do against teams in the top half. They pull off results, play well, solid defensively. They play against them in the bottom half, and they go and get turned over 2 or 3-0. It's so unpredictable, but he's got them playing well since that 9-0 defeat last season to Leicester. He's got them playing well. Southampton, they're going to be around the just below or top 10. I'd probably say just under. They're always in the mix.
And don't forget, guys, sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Don't forget, guys, to give us a like, a follow, drop some questions down. We'll get back to you. We'll answer it. Also, remember, if you go to Moss Bros, you can go to any Moss Bros, get 15% off full price items. All you got to do is quote FTB Sports, Ian. Speak to the manager and get you 15% off full price items. So, with the last game of the evening, which was Arsenal versus Leicester, last minute Vardy goal. Vardy, what can we say?
I love
I'll watch Vardy
He's
play,
a joy
and
to
it looks
watch.
like he hasn't lost
He's
the
a joy
pace.
to watch. What can I say about it? It's every kid's dream to be Jamie Vardy, a guy who comes from non-league football. You know that bit when everybody's a dream of scoring an FA Cup final winning goal or whatever, and Vardy makes it real. It's almost like you think anybody could be Jamie Vardy. So he's living the dream is Vardy. So and he's capable of scoring goals against anyone. I thought Arsenal would win. I think Arteta is the real deal. I think for a few decades he's going to be a superstar manager. I see him managing possibly, one of the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Bayern Munichs at some stage. I think he's the real deal. Really, the real deal. It's great listening. And again, one of the good things about not having the crowd is when you listen to the games without the mock supporters, and you can hear the coaches shouting at the players, etc. And to hear Arteta shouting at the different players in different languages in his communication is amazing. So no, I think he's the real deal. The guy they bought from Atletico Madrid,
Thomas Partey.
Again, he looks fantastic. Much better signing than that Pepe guy. Arsenal don't get enough stick for signing him. £70 million, and he is so average it's untrue. But Partey looks
75 million plus add-on 80 million.
Yeah, but it's a shame he couldn't get the best out of Guendouzi. It's a real shame that he couldn't turn talent into a really good player. I like what he's done to Bellerin, because I thought Bellerin was a real lightweight fullback until Arteta got his hands on him, and now again he looks like the player you always thought he could be, Bellerin.
To Adam, and with this Arsenal thing, I'm going to say next season, if Guardiola leaves, Arteta will be the manager.
I'd love it.
He will be. He'll be the manager of Man City. This is his little project to get used to it, to then go to City.
So where's Arteta going? Guardiola,
City.
sorry.
Guardiola, I reckon Guardiola will go to Juventus.
You reckon?
I don't think he'll go back to Italy. He's still got an axe to grind there about when he was busted for drugs, Guardiola. He did. He got banned for a season in Italy. He was treated... If you've ever watched the Maradona documentary or whatever, the way that they can get taken apart in Italy, he was treated a bit like that. I still think he's got some bad thoughts for Italy. If he goes anywhere, surely, isn't there a crescendo coming where you're going to have a new president of Barcelona this season? Isn't it fate that he to Catalan?
Could be.
His homeland. If he leaves City, his contract expires at the same time as the president of Barcelona does. A new president of Barcelona, Guardiola. I think that's where he's going.
So, Adam, Thomas Partey, should I say, I watched him play for Atletico Madrid against, I think it was Liverpool he played against, and I thought he was a phenomenal player, absolutely phenomenal. I watched him for Arsenal in Europa League the other day, and he was phenomenal again.
Machine.
What's your thought? Do you think having Arsenal now, he's the final piece of their jigsaw to push for that top four now?
Yeah, he's obviously a great player to come in. I've heard people say Vieira-esque in the last couple of days. But I wouldn't say he's the final piece of the jigsaw. I think defensively they've got things to work on. You've got the David Luiz situation. At the start of the season, everyone was writing him off. And after the restart, I don't know if you remember his red card against Manchester City for the penalty. So defensively, you've got stuff to work on. I feel like going forward, Pepe, I think you could get more out of him in a more central role.
Oh, he's a good player. There's plenty more to come out of his tank.
If he went central with Pepe, I think you'd almost get an impact. It's quite a big name to say, but it probably wouldn't be as big of an impact, but he would have a similar impact to sort of Henry if he.
Henry, yes, yeah, that's a good call. Yeah,
interesting.
Cool.
But it's whether Arteta wants to take that chance and try that. It's He knows what he's doing, though. Arteta. They've definitely improved. No
clever, intelligent man.
Yeah,
intelligent.
They're gonna be top 4.
Yeah.
Tottenham will win the league, but
4.
Arsenal will be top 4.
So I'm going to sit there. I've written down who I reckon how the league's going to finish. I'm just going to couple of more things, and then that's going to be the show that's round up. So what I'll do is we'll just go through Ian, where do you believe how the league will finish this season? So who's your top 6 teams?
I think Liverpool will win the league. They've just got that winning attitude even when they're not playing well. I think Spurs will run them close, so I'd probably put those as 1 and 2. I think City will be 3 or 4. The other place I'd probably put to Arsenal. I think then the likes of Leeds and Everton, etc. They'll all play really well. West Ham, but not make it. Wolves the same. United will finish the top 4. So I'd say I think I'd go Liverpool, Spurs, City, Arsenal.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Spurs, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, United, Everton. No, sorry.
Adam.
Sorry.
Go on.
No, sorry. Arsenal will face Everton in the 6th spot.
So my one was I've got Spurs to win, Liverpool, City, Everton, Chelsea, Arsenal, United.
Yeah.
That's how I've rounded it up. So guys,
going down with Fulham.
Fulham on West Brom. West Brom and Sheffield United will go down.
Yeah,
Could be. Yeah.
Fulham, West Brom, and Maguire going down.
And then yourself, Ian?
Yeah, you can't argue with Fulham. It's a shame, but they will because they're lovely. You'd have to say West Brom and Sheffield United. It's not a bad shout. I think they're going to struggle this season a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It will be determined by who gets some really bad injuries. You get a handful of injuries at the Newcastle, and they could find their way in that area, or Southampton. Clubs that don't have deep squads. Brighton we haven't mentioned either. They're a couple of injuries away from a desperate time. So that will be the bottom 3 with Fulham. Fulham I think are on, but the rest will be who gets the big injuries, and it could be Brighton, West Brom, some of those clubs that aren't deep.
So guys, this is FTB Sports. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Please leave your comments, and we will get back to you with the comments. And we will see you next week at 8 p.m. without any technical difficulty, we pray. And our host, Colin Back, ex-Brentford player, and he'll be featuring with Stephen. We'll be talking all things Liverpool, and with Kyle as well. Any more last words, guys? Ian, thank you very much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
You've done fantastically, Errol. I'm really impressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thanks again, Adam, presenter as well, part of FTB Sports. Any final words?
No, just everyone keep sharing, keep liking, keep commenting. Let everyone know. Shows it's only 2 shows old, so it's on the up. It's going to get better. So just keep following and supporting.
Yeah, and don't forget, guys, if you're watching the show tonight, you can go to any Moss Bros, get 15% off, all full price items. Just go in with the code FTB Sports Ian, speak to the manager to get your 15% off today. Guys, thanks for watching. I'm Errol, Ian as our special guest, and Adam.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Have a lovely evening, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.